Welcome back everyone. We're making another wooden egg today, this time with wood burning. And I'm not using any fancy wood burning tools, just a hot wire and a hot nail. A little improvisation. Now I didn't think I'd make another one of these videos until next year, but after making my egg video last week about this blue felt one, a handful of people suggested wood burning, decorating it the way a traditional Easter egg is decorated. And I really don't know why I didn't think about that before. Thank you for that suggestion. Here we go. So I'm starting off with a block of wood here and my little egg template. There's already a hole drilled directly in the center. You guys can go and watch my full tutorial on this, much more detailed. I thought I'd glance over that in this video. I just like to cut the bulk of the material off my bandsaw, and that'll make my DIY lathe situation go a lot smoother. Now that I've got my egg cut out, I can glue a nail inside of this hole with epoxy. Now do this at your own risk, guys. I'm not saying this is the best method, but I seem to have a pretty good success rate here. 3 for 3 now, and things are going pretty good. Make sure your nail's nice and solid. I guess I should have measured that. I'll try to get the measurement on the screen for you guys. And if your hole is nice and centered, this thing should spin quite nicely. And the other cool thing about this project, no chisels required. I'm using an angle grinder with a 60 grit flap disc. And now I do have a lot of people questioning the lateral pressure on the drill. And I'll be honest with you, there really isn't that much using the angle grinder. Because if you've ever used an angle grinder with a flap disc, you know that it removes a lot of material very quickly, very easily. So I really don't need to put much lateral pressure on my drill. And another thing to note, I'm only making 1 or 2 of these a year. So I think my drill can handle it. Now roughing this egg into shape only takes 5 to 10 minutes, and that's with recording. Then I switch to hand sanding. I start with 150 grit sandpaper, go to 220 and then 340. And now this is where things get extra juicy. I'm totally winging this, I've never tried this before. But I started by marking my egg with a pencil. Completely random, but it worked out. And then I used a small file to cut little grooves into the egg. And this is important for the next step, which is using this thing. A wire tied to popsicle sticks. I've seen wood turners use this technique and I think it's kind of cool. You basically just hold the wire on the spinning piece of wood, and the friction will cause it to heat up and burn these cool lines into it. Now this part, I will admit, puts a lot of lateral pressure onto the drill. I think if I had higher RPMs, I maybe wouldn't have to push so hard, but my drill isn't really that fast, so I did have to put a fair bit of pressure on here for it to actually heat up and leave those burn lines in there. So you can decide if you want to do this or not, but I can tell you, I'm probably going to do this again with some other projects because I think it's kind of cool. Now obviously this is kind of plain, so I wanted to add a little bit more decoration, and I was planning on using my soldering iron. However, it was way too weak. So I improvised, got my torch out, and thought, you know what? I'm just going to heat up a piece of wire and a nail. And this worked shockingly well. This is just rebar wire. I bent the end of it into a 90-degree angle and just started burning some patterns in. Surprisingly easy. It probably only took about 15 minutes to decorate this entire egg. And that's the first one I've ever done. And I used the other end of the wire to put these little dots in here. That also worked great. I bet I could probably shape this wire into all sorts of different shapes to get different patterns and results. Kind of a good idea, actually. And once I was satisfied with that, I decided I kind of wanted to have a little flower on the top and the bottom. And for that, I'm using the nail. This was definitely the trickiest part. I practiced a little bit off camera, but I started by putting that center hole in there. And I did file my nails so it was pointy and a little bit more accurate. And I just sort of get the tip near the center. And as it starts burning, I rotate it downwards. And it gives me something that kind of looks like a flower petal. And it's better to go in too cool than too hot. You can always do a little bit more burning, but if you burn too much, it's kind of hard to fix. So I kind of went slow here. But once again, turned out great. Don't worry, I'll show you guys. It'll be awesome. And for the finish, I just put some lovely linseed oil on here. Who doesn't like to watch people put linseed oil on things, right? And then I buffed it with a little bit of wood wax. This is looking really good so far. I just need to cut the snail off with a hacksaw, which I'll do off camera. Again, watch my full tutorial if you want to see how I did this and filed it down. And that's pretty much it. We've got a much more traditional looking wooden Easter egg. This was a lot faster to make than the blue felt and wood egg that I made last week. And I feel like the wood burning adds a lot more character to it when you compare it to just a plain wooden egg. Oh, and you probably noticed, I do have a magnetic base here, which works great with the nail that's still stuck inside the egg. Win-win. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next year, although that's what I said last time. Nah, I think I'm done with the eggs for now. Alright, hit that sub button.